Why did it take so long for Bill Clinton to join you for a rally like the one we saw here in Florida last night?
Well, you know, I tell you what, you don't see Michelle Obama with me that often either, because we want to deploy folks with star power all across the country. And so we've done a couple of events with Hillary Clinton. We did our first event with President Clinton because we want them campaigning on their own. They are their own draws. And the Clintons have been just extraordinary on our behalf. And President Clinton and I have been talking on a regular basis throughout the financial crisis. We had good conversations. And should I be successful, he's somebody who's going to continue to be a critical advisor in this process.
It's toward the end here, 5 days to go. It tends to get dirty at this point in the campaign. You've got a Palin ad on the air insinuating she's not qualified to be president, though I've noted you're not willing to go that far verbally. The other side is today raising Tony Rezko. Yesterday and today they raised Rashid Khalidi, the Palestinian rights advocate. Are you content that you can defend your various associations like Rezko and Khalidi?
Yeah, Brian, they've been shopping this stuff for, what, 6 months now? And in each of these instances, they've proved to be baseless. You know, with respect to Mr. Rezko, all the newspapers in Chicago have gone over this again and again. The Chicago Tribune, in endorsing my candidacy, talked about the degree to which there is no indication that I had in any way betrayed the public trust. With respect to Mr. Khalidi, this is somebody who apparently John McCain's organization, or an organization of which he chaired, provided funding to Mr. Khalidi's organization, something that I've never done, and Mr. Khalidi's a respected professor at Columbia. So you know, these kinds of distractions, these kind of tactics haven't been successful for their campaign, and the reason is because the American people aren't interested in guilt by association. They're not interested in, you know, negative attacks. What they're interested in is, how are you going to make sure that the housing market works so my property stops losing value? You get me health care? What are you going to be doing about keeping jobs here in the United States of America? That's what we've been focused on. That's where our efforts have been, and that's why I think we're doing pretty well.
If you're successful on election night, if your party is successful on election night and you do well in the House and Senate, there's been a lot of concern expressed about one-party control, that it would mean a green light to the likes of Reid and Pelosi, and that parties with one-party control tend to overreach. Do you have an assurance to the American people that you would rein it in and not try to overreach?
You know, first of all, I think Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid probably are getting a bad rap here in the assumption that somehow they would not show self-restraint. I think they understand as well as anybody that the last time Democrats had control, when Bill Clinton first came into office, we squandered a lot of opportunities, that the Republicans overreached. I think there have been some pretty good lessons over the last 15, 20 years to say that the only way we're going to solve big problems like energy, the financial crisis, health care, is if we've got an approach that reaches out to the other side and comes up with pragmatic, common sense, non-ideological solutions. That's what I've been talking about throughout this campaign. I think the Democrats who are going to be elected in November are going to be, a lot of them, centrist Democrats who are running in traditionally Republican districts, and they're going to have a lot of interest in common sense solutions out there. So I think this kind of fretting and fussing about Democrats is badly overstated, and the fact is that, you know, my track record has been one of saying, let's try to find some common ground.
Let's talk about your running mate, Joe Biden's quote, which you know well by now. Mark my words, we're going to have an international crisis, a generated crisis, to test the mettle of this guy. I promise you it will occur. So you hear that your vice presidential running mate says that. What happens?
Oh, nothing happens. Look,
it scared a lot of people.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it scared a lot of people. I think it gave John McCain an opportunity to run another ad and the Republican National Committee, but I don't think people were scared. I think people understand that it is going to be absolutely critical for the next president to clean up big mess in terms of our foreign policy. We are not as safe as we should be. We're going to be involved in 2 wars. Bin Laden is still out there. I'm surprised he hasn't cut a videotape already before the election like he did last time. They are plotting and planning to kill Americans, and so the next president is going to have a big range of challenges. That's true whether it's myself or John McCain. Now, what gets left out of that quote most of the time is Joe Biden saying Barack Obama's got a spine of steel, and there's no doubt that he will meet any test. And I think Colin Powell made that same assessment. I think people who've been involved in our campaign, have watched our campaign, have made that same assessment. And I'm confident that we are better equipped than Senator McCain would be, that my administration would be better equipped to deal with an international crisis.
Are you sorry some days that you ever met Joe the plumber? Here you are, a kind of chance encounter with this guy, and you say to him... it wasn't actually chance. He said, can I ask you a question? And one of my jobs as President of the United States is, or a candidate, is to make sure that I answer questions from anybody, even if they're Republicans, even if they're not supporters of mine. So you used the wording to him, spread the wealth around. That, in the next few days, became redistribution and socialism. What did you mean, what do you mean by spreading the wealth around?
Listen, you're taking 3 words. There was a long videotape, and I suspect you've watched it, and I was very clear about what I meant, and I'll repeat it. We have a track record that we can examine. Under Bill Clinton, during the 1990s, you had a philosophy that said, we're going to grow the economy from the bottom up. All income brackets benefited. Everybody did well. 22 million jobs were created. And you created a lot of millionaires and billionaires as well. So there was no problem for wealthy people, but the nurse, the teacher, everybody did well. Under George Bush, he had a policy that said we're going to give big tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans, huge concentration of wealth at the top. The average American family saw their incomes go down $2,000 while George Bush was president, in contrast to going up $7,500 when Bill Clinton was president. And the basic principle is that if we are making sure that middle-class folks are getting tax relief, that their kids can go to college, that they've got some pension security, if they are able to make it, that's good for the economy as a whole. And when we concentrate all the benefits of hard work and productivity at the very top, at the top 1% or 1/10 of 1%, the economy doesn't do as well. And that's the history of our economy. And that's the argument that I was making to Joe. And it's the argument that I'm making to the American people, and I think the majority of people are buying it.
Were you upset with your vice presidential nominee, your running mate?
When?
When he made, Joe Biden made those comments?
No. Look, Joe Biden is a class act. He is a good man. He shares my values, and he is eminently qualified to be vice president. And for me to worry about how the press will take this or that comment out of context, Joe is not the kind of person who's the most cautious around a microphone. I knew that when I selected him, and that's not important to him, to me, because what I'm much more concerned about is this somebody who shares my belief that we've got to fight for the middle class and to ensure that the next generation of Americans have the same opportunities that I had.
I wanted to ask you about, it's a press-related question. This picture was so striking to me. And according to the press pool traveling with you, you asked to just take a walk.
Yeah.
And be alone. Right. You're visiting your grandmother, what may, by all accounts, be the last time you see her.
Right.
How have you reacted to this? I guess it's part of the contract you make when you run in such an extended campaign, but the human in you and the husband and father and grandson must want to just bust out sometimes or disappear if you can't go for a walk like that.
Look, there's no doubt that the hardest thing about this whole process, other than being away from my kids, is the loss of anonymity. You don't have the opportunity just to do the things that ordinary folks do.
You can't walk into an Arby's
Take
today
a walk in the
out
park
here on the interstate.
Go get yourself some shaving cream.
Right.
You've got
Right.
to coordinate with somebody to do it. And so there's been, I think, it's been written about before, the bubble that gets created, and I can feel it, and you strain against it. Now that particular moment is one of those rare times where, even though you know what you signed up for, I won't lie, I was disappointed. I would have liked to have seen the press say, you know what, this is a pretty unique situation. While we give them a couple hours. I understand they've got a job to do. My hope is that if I'm successful, and look, I've asked for it. I spent a lot of money advertising to be known around the country, so